Welcome to LUTV News in Focus, where we feature interesting topics on campus, in the community, and in the world of culture. I am Jonathan Tippett. Since late February, media coverage of Russia's invasion of Ukraine has dominated the news cycle and the attention of the world. A Lamar University alumnus' unexpected journey led him and his camera to the Poland-Ukraine border to document the human elements of this war. Patrick Patterson recently returned to the United States after spending time on the edge of this conflict in Eastern Europe. He's here to share his experiences, give insight on his interactions with Ukrainian refugees, and discuss the images he captured from behind his lens.
Patrick, thank you for joining us today. This is an honor. It's my honor to have you on. It really is.
Well, thank you for having me. It feels a little bit like I'm connected to Beaumont again.
Hey, you're coming back to the roots. So speaking of, let's start there before we even get into your whole experience. Tell me a little bit about yourself, because I saw on your website you describe you have a very specific philosophy when it comes to photography, and that's incorporated into this. So tell me a little bit about that, about the visual journalism.
I think just having an approach of bleeding fine arts with I guess photojournalism to kind of tell my experience and my story, and try to have the people that I'm trying to share their stories also incorporate or be a part of their story, instead of just me giving my experience of their story.
And so you got your start kind of at Lamar University. You know, you're a Keith Carter acolyte, you could say. You're coming up with a program. So tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, my background is I went to school at Lamar, studied under Keith, traditional black and white printing process in the wet lab. Digital photography came out. I reverted and started doing some alternative processing. And then, life happens, and I took a hiatus from photography for a while. Always still taking pictures, but not anything for project work or, anything of significant relevance. And then, the last couple of years, kind of making that transition back into project work.
So how do you go from where you are right now? Tell me a little bit of the thought process behind going from where you are now to making this trip, because it's not your day job. You're not getting hired by a news station and you're going out on their bankroll, and you're self-funding this entire trip. So what brings you from I'm going about my day-to-day business to I'm going to go to Poland to meet with people in the middle of this crisis?
I have mutual connections in Poland. Nothing significantly close. I participated in a talk show program based out of Warsaw about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. So I don't know, maybe once or twice a month, I keep in contact with somebody I've worked with in the past. And, this happened, and, I'm still really not, I haven't put my thoughts together on what really pulled me that direction. I just felt like I wanted to be there. There were so many uncertainties, but just one day saying, okay, I want to do this, figured out logistics here with childcare and just day-to-day stuff. And then booked a flight and went to Poland.
How far was the process between you're like, I want to do this, and when you booked your flight? Like, how long of a period of time?
48 hours.
That fast? You really put it together.
I mean, I think it was in my mind, but as far as I came home one night and made the decision to go, and booked everything that evening, and then 2 days later I flew out, or a little bit less than 2 days.
So plane lands, you get your lodging taken care of, all the logistics are figured out. Where do you go from there? Like, you don't know any of these families. You need a translator. There's a language barrier. What happens as soon as you hit the ground?
Sure. I check into the hotel. I got a hotel across the street from the airport, and I specifically wanted to kind of have something close to the airport because it's just one less thing I have to worry about as far as landing and locating my hotel and leaving. It's also close to the train station as well, so I'm able to hop on a train and get to other places. I had reached out to a university there that has a photography program, and was able to find somebody that was in that program who is from Ukraine, but going to school in Poland, who joined me for the trip. We originally had set up some potential stories with my colleague who's in Warsaw. Those really didn't pan out. We didn't really connect, and so Anastasia and I went our separate direction and headed to the border. So it's about a 4.5 hour drive from Warsaw to Przemysl, which is about 10 miles from the border in a town called Medyka.
So when you're arriving to the border, tell me about what your expectations were versus the reality that you ran into.
I had no expectations. That's something that I briefly tried to visualize, but this is my first trip to Europe. I've never put myself in an environment similar to this, and so I told myself that I have no expectations. I'm going to go and take each day, one day at a time.
What was the first moment that really hit you when you got there?
I mean, even before you get there, it's small stuff. It's not knowing how to pump gas in your car. I mean, legitimately, like, you get out of the car and I have no idea how to pump gas. Once you get out of the city, a lot of people don't speak English. So anytime I separated from Anastasia, I ran into translation problems. We landed at the train station midday on a Monday morning, or midday Monday, and we went straight to the train station and just started kind of going from there, just kind of walking through, kind of taking it in, not really making any photographs for a little bit, and then just started talking to people. It made it a lot easier with her being Ukrainian. She was able to make, I think, some personal connections with the refugees who were coming across, and they felt authentic. It's not just throwing a camera up in someone's face and just stealing that image. So all the people that we photographed, for the most part, there were some pretty authentic personal connections.
So you spent a lot of time with one specific family. Tell me a little bit more about that.
So the first day we were there, we probably worked from 3 o'clock in the afternoon until 2:33 in the morning. We actually got back to our hotel and then got a phone call from a gentleman who was transporting 150 children from an orphanage from the Kyiv area, and they were arriving, and then they were going to transport them to a school in the center of the city. So we had made that connection earlier in the day, and so he called and let us know, and so we got back up and headed out. So our first day was really spending time at the train station. We boarded some vans that we had no idea where they were going. They were filled with refugees. She just would look at me and say, "Get on." She's speaking Ukrainian to the driver, and so I get on. And so we ended up going to a large athletic complex that they were registering people, checking them in, providing services as far as like SIM cards so that they could have cell phone service, meals, beds. And then once people are finding housing, they're getting transferred back out to the train station and then going whichever direction they need to go. So we really kind of spent time just hopping on different buses and spending time with, I guess, in the experience or in the environment versus really making personal connections with anyone. The following day, we drove about 3 hours north to a border crossing. At breakfast, we made connections with a woman and husband who lived in Holland. They were both Ukrainian, and they were there to pick up their parents at a border crossing that was about 3 hours away. So we joined them on that trip.
Were they standoffish? Did they seem receptive to wanting to talk? Like, what was that kind of environment like?
Certainly. I mean, I didn't meet anybody that didn't want to talk. Of course, there's a lot that I probably wasn't privy to, just because that casual conversation going back and forth, that dialogue, she's really picking that up and then kind of guiding it from there. And then I'm kind of feeding off of her energy and her body language. And once she made a connection with somebody, it was they were pretty open. I mean, there were a couple of people that really didn't want to be photographed, but they were willing to tell their story. So we joined them to the border crossing. We were there when our mom crossed the border. We recorded that, and then we found a mother traveling with her 2 young children that needed some help, and so we loaded them up in our car and transported them back to Shimashil. And then she met her husband's best friend there, who traveled, I think, about 8 hours from Prague, and then they went on to Prague that night. So that was our first connection with a family. And each day after that first day, we made connections that were just by chance.
Were there early on in very start of the invasion, they had announced that they weren't going to let men leave the country. Did you see that reflected? Was it primarily women and children?
Yeah, it's like 90% women and children, and then any male. All the males that I saw were either older. We spent time with a kid that his name is Alex. He's 16 and a half, and he was really upset that he wasn't old enough to stay. And you could see it, you could see it on his face.
There's been a lot of, especially online, social media, there's a lot of discourse about what's propaganda and what's news and what's going on with people and the status of the invasion. And what would you say you've seen in the news versus what you saw with your own eyes?
I think the I can speak from my experiences is that I was impacted just by the people. I think when I'm there, I'm seeing some of the same footage that you would see on TV. I think that what we're finding is that, or what I would experience is that on the news, those personal stories and those personal connections aren't being made. You have a 60-second or a 3-minute piece at the longest on these stories, and it's just the general, this is where people are crossing, people are being sheltered. Poland's being fantastic in other countries about opening their doors. And then the coverage of, the actual war. So, I mean, I think that's kind of a tough one to put into words.
Well, you talk about the personal connection. You told me before the interview started, you mentioned you're still in contact with a lot of people you met. What's that been like? How have their stories developed since you've been back home?
We spent time with a mother, her 2 daughters, 16 and 9, and her nephew who's 16. And we met them at the train station below the airport. We were on our way to the main train station in downtown Warsaw, and the woman just had a question for Anastasia, and we helped them get to the train station. We were able to kind of translate, or she was able to translate some things for them. And one of my connections in Poland is doing a fantastic job finding homes and places for refugees that are coming over. He's become really well known for what he's doing. He's made this his full-time job right now. So I reached out to him, and he said that he could find a house. So they were with us for the rest of the day, instead of having them stay at the train station at one of the makeshift little shelters. We opened up our hotel room. They got to relax. We shared dinner that evening together, and then took an Uber back to the train station, and got him on the train and wished him well. So, I talk to them every day. Her daughter, who is 16, she wants to go back. Her mom doesn't want her to go back, and she just finished high school, and or hasn't quite finished high school. So she's really upset. She's at that point of her age and what she's doing. Her boyfriend's there. She just wants to continue her life as normal, and I don't think it's really hit her that she may not return to Ukraine.
There might not be a normal anymore.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us. I think that's about all we have time for, but I really appreciate you sharing your experience with us and telling us about everything that you saw.
Thank you for having me.
Patterson has hopes of returning to Poland to reconnect with people he met on his journey to further share their stories. I'd like to sincerely thank Patrick for joining us and sharing his perspective. Thank you for watching LUTV News in Focus. To see more content from LUTV News, follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook.